What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome to Axis and Allies 1951 Europe, Turn 1. As I said in my introduction, this is played on the Operation Unthinkable map from Historical Board Gaming. And here's just a quick overview of what happened this turn so far. Alright, so for the timeline event, the Soviets unfortunately rolled a 4, so they'll only get 2 turns of initiative, and on turn 1 the Allies suffered a -1 offense-defense ability for their ground and air units, but not their naval units. Alright. And then for the random event, unfortunately bad weather, severe weather hampered both sides this turn. So as you can see, no land units may move more than one space this turn, so no blitzing, no amphibious assaults, no airborne assaults, and no air scrambles. And air scrambles work just like, or kind of work just like they do in G40. However, you can also scramble off of carriers, but 3 aircraft from an airbase or a carrier can scramble. Also, what ends up happening too is that you can scramble to protect. So say on this turn, say the Soviets went into West Germany with their ground army and a bunch of air. This air could scramble to do 1 round of air combat at scramble stats. So fighters and tacticals hit on a 1, and then jets will hit on a 2. So you can do 1 round of that just to see if you can destroy more of the enemy air force before they go into the ground combat. So yeah, so bad weather affects both sides this turn. Okay, so since the Soviets had the initiative, we start with them. So the Soviets had 84 IPC to spend. They just about spent it all, if I recall. So let's see here. They bought 1 tank for Bulgaria, 2 airborne infantry and an air transport in Romania, 3 tanks in Warsaw, 3 infantry in the Caucasus, and 2 fighters in Smolensk. So we've got Bulgaria, Romania, the Caucasus, Smolensk, and Warsaw is looking a little battered, little full there. This is where like army cards definitely come in handy for this game, because it does get rather crowded in a lot of these spots pretty quickly as the game progresses. All right, combat this turn. So we'll just go. We'll just kind of go down the way. Alright, first, the Soviets wrapped up the battle in Berlin. They killed a U.S. infantry tank and tactical for a loss of 1 infantry. Then they cleared out the rest of the NATO forces in Austria. That was 3 NATO infantry, 2 U.S. infantry, 1 U.S. tank. And the Soviets suffered no casualties after 2 rounds of combat. Yeah, even though the Allies did have a -1 on their defense in a couple battles, they actually still got some pretty good hits. Next, the Soviets invaded Istanbul from the ground, along with some air assets. After, I think it was 2 rounds, casualties were for NATO 4 infantry and artillery, 2 AAA, a fighter and a tactical, and the Soviets lost 3 infantry out of that fight. Next, the Soviets launched a ground attack into Kars for Turkey. NATO's losses were 3 infantry and artillery and a tank, and the Soviets lost 2 infantry in that struggle right there. Next, the Black Sea Fleet from Sea Zone 21 forced the Straits to attack a small NATO fleet here. When you force the Straits, so even though they had Istanbul, when they technically forced it, Istanbul was not being controlled, so the ships were rolled against. And on a 2 or less, a ship is sunk or damaged. Those subs are not rolled against. So there was one casualty during the Soviet Navy's forcing of the Straits, and that was they lost a carrier, and they had a battleship there that also got damaged. In the battle itself, NATO lost a destroyer and a cruiser, while the Soviets lost a submarine. Next, the Russians took two strategic bombers out of Leningrad, and they came to hit the air base in West Germany for this game. So, a air base and a naval base, their max damage is 8. However, well, not so much max damage, but like that's the initial high value damage. But I'm going with an idea that you can go double the max, and their max damage is, if it gets to 16 damage, then the facility is completely destroyed. So the Soviets attacked, trying to destroy the facility. Unfortunately, the AAA did get one of the strategic bombers, and the one bomber that made the attack got 7 damage and got close. I mean, they brought that airbase up to 15 damage, but not enough to take it out of the game wholesale, or at least forcing NATO to build a completely different one. And then finally, the Soviets mustered their entire sub-force of 9 submarines to hit a NATO navy here in Sea Zone 6. They ended up sinking two NATO subs, and they damaged a NATO carrier. However, they did lose 4 subs, and so they retreated back into Sea Zone 2. And then for the non-combats, the Russians had to try and get as many forces as they could west. However, because of the atomic bombs here in Hungary, the Sudetenland, and East Poland, there was only this small corridor that they could. They come from Belarus into Slovakia up into West Poland. But again, because of the weather, tanks and mechanized infantry could only go one space. So a lot of units could really only go one space. We did use our 7 rail to rail a bunch of units to both Germany, or to up here to Stettin and Breslau here in southern Germany. So just trying to get forces to these 2 army groups. We did send a little bit to we did send like a couple of units to Austria to reinforce Austria. No, I did not, because you could not get to Austria because of the you could through Slovakia. So yes, we did send some troops to Austria. I do remember that. And then we just moving some of the air assets back. In this game, just like Operation Unthinkable, in territories without an airbase, you can only stage 4 aircraft there. And then in territories where there is an airbase that's not damaged, you can stage up to 6 aircraft out of there, which is going to come in handy for NATO soon. All right, so then at the end of the turn, the Soviets collected 88 IPC and saved 2, so they ended the turn with 90 IPC. All right, going over to NATO. NATO had 93 to spend. Most of it was spent on repairs. They paid the 15 to repair West Germany. They paid 8 to repair the London airbase, and they spent 8 to repair the airbase here in Reims. They also bought 3 infantry and 3 mech for Paris, an infantry for Greece, and then put 4 infantry in Belgium. And then they saved 2 IPC as well. Combat, there were only 2 combats this turn. They were both in the naval actions. First, they took their fleet from Sea Zone 5 and what remained in Sea Zone 6. Went up to Sea Zone 2. They killed 5 Soviet submarines at the cost of both their carriers being damaged, their battleship being damaged, and they also lost 1 destroyer from the engagement. And then coming down to here, they counterattacked against the Black Sea Fleet, which was 1 sub, 2 destroyers, a cruiser, and a battleship. That's what was lost. And then NATO lost 2 submarines and 3 destroyers. On the non-combat, NATO reinforced Greece, reinforced northern Italy and Turin, helped reinforce the American army in Munich, put a lot of reinforcements into West Germany, aircraft, ground forces, as well as moving some forces up here to protect these 2 aircraft that couldn't land on the carriers. And that was it for NATO. So then at the end of their turn, they collected 88, plus the 2 they saved, they also collected 90. Alright, so for the United States had 48 to spend. They spent 8 repairing the airbase here in Munich. And then they bought 2 infantry, 2 tank, and 2 more transports. They did not conduct any combat this turn, just they didn't conduct any combat. Non-combat, they moved the 6th Fleet away from North Africa, put it here so they could maybe use their fighter to help to scramble to help either Greece or northern Italy in the event that they are attacked. They sent reinforcements into Munich, brought some more air assets to Reims, and put some and then dropped 2 infantry and 2 tank in Belgium and moved the majority of the U.S. Atlantic Fleet into the Channel as well. And so then at the end of the turn, the U.S. collected 48 plus 2 that they saved, so they got an even 50 at the end of their turn. Alright, so that is it for turn 1. And now that it is the end of turn 1, the atomic effects in Hungary, East Poland, and the Sudetenland will come off. The Soviets will go up, will regain the 4 IPC that was initially lost. So now they will be at 92. Yep. They'll be at 92. And then they still get 1 more turn with the initiative. And then, you know what? I'll do at the end of the turn, I'll do the random event. No, that's part of turn 2. So I'll do everything for turn 2 on turn 2. Alright, so, like I said, that is it for turn 1, and we will see you guys next time for turn 2. So until then, guys, as always, take care.